everybody. I'm excited to take you through this. Okay, so check it. This is the SuperBrain OS. It has been a work in progress now for about a year and a half, and it originally started out as just simple note-taking and extended memory. It was really like a knowledge management platform, had place for clipping articles and doing all sorts of things. And then it developed into the full SuperBrain OS, which had so many different modules, and it developed into this $300 platform that just had so much stuff in it. It was totally overwhelming for people. And I've since slimmed it down and also added in so much of the Notion AI into this. It is such a phenomenal platform. I'm going to take you through it right now. So the basis of the SuperBrain OS is that you have a inbox that you can always go to quickly capture things. You have the spaces, which is the primary method of organizing your world. Space stands for specific projects, archives, collections, and experiences. It means that any one of these spaces can be set up however you want. But the idea of a space is it's a place that has its own projects, its own archive, its own collections, and it's set up in a particular way. So think of it as those different kind of rooms of your house. And then you have the commons. This is where all of your databases live. It's just like the library, right? So you've got your tags, circles, locations, and memory categories. These are different ways of organizing data inside of your SuperBrain. Got the update feed, which is basically your own personal little Twitter feed, and allows you to capture things that happen. So if you have a bad memory like I do, this is the place to do it. This is especially made in mind with people who have ADHD and have really bad short-term memory like I do. There's a bunch of different categories of things you can remember. Then you have all your reference stuff. You got notes, you've got master notes, which are sort of like your own cheat sheets that you assemble from all of your notes and your articles and book notes and things like that. Got a place for clipping articles, place for books, tracking what you've read, a swipe file if you find something cool, useful tools. You find something on the web that's an app or something you like, clip it right there. Code snippets. If you need to save code snippets or AI prompts, you put them in there. You got a people database, a company database, and then your meeting notes that comes with Notion AI. And then we've got our getting stuff done. You've got goals, which is linked to projects, which is linked to tasks. So projects have tasks, projects can roll up to goals, all very cool. And then there's this section here for applications. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later, but the idea is basically that the SuperBrain OS is the base platform, and you can add on to it by adding new applications to it that I'll be making available. You can create your own as well, but it's a really cool system where you can essentially just add in some new databases and connect it to some of these core databases that make up the SuperBrain. So let's say you add in a module, you can connect it to tags, for instance. You add something that's related to people, you connect it to your people database, your company's database, and circles database, and maybe location, right? So the idea is that you can add in new modules and then just connect them to the base that is your SuperBrain. Let's talk about agents and the Notion AI. One of the things that I find really interesting about the Notion AI is that it has access to all of your stuff. And unlike, say, Claude or Gemini or GPT, of which I've used all of them, and I love them all, the nice thing about working inside of Notion is that it directly has access to all of your stuff, and you can connect to it. And it doesn't have to use an MCP to go and find it. You can just say, hey, and then mention a particular resource. But I went a few steps further, and I actually went really deep into how the AI worked, and I came up with a way of making it more efficient, make it snappier and faster, fewer errors, but also expanding its capabilities greatly. So this is Agent.io, which is the public version of essentially the AI that I've created for myself, and here's how it works. So this is your Agent.io OS homepage, and in here what you're going to have is your instructions page, and in there you'll notice it's completely blank right now. And the reason for that is that you're going to make your own instructions for Agent.io. And the way you're going to do that is that when you first come in, you're going to open up your Notion AI and you're going to type run Atlas, create meta instructions. So what is that? Well, Atlas is a role inside of your agent. So all of these roles, think of them as personalities. They have different instructions. They have access to different skills and things like that. Atlas is what I would call a meta prompter. What it allows you to do is it allows you to build the meta instructions for your entire Notion AI. It also then allows you to create additional roles that do specific things, and then it allows you to create skills that your roles can be connected to. So the way I broke up my agent is that rather than putting everything into the Notion AI instructions, what I did was I broke everything out into pieces, and then I let everything reference everything else. So the way my agent is set up is that I have unbreakable rules. These are things that must always be adhered to. You limit them to like 5 or 7. You've got the personality and behavior, and then the default instructions. That's how your agent overall, that every time you interact with Notion AI, that's how it's going to behave. But then you can dip into individual roles. You can have a productivity pal. You can have a meeting summarizer. You can have a ghostwriter. You can have a business coach. You can create whatever you want. And then you give each of those different roles different skills. So I have this agent that comes included with the SuperBrain OS and Agent IO called Summer. And Summer is a meeting summarizer. And what they do is that they capture testimonials. So if you're in a call with a client and they happen to say something nice, at the end of that call, if you've recorded it inside of Notion, you can just run Summer, and Summer will go and look for the testimonials that may have been spoken by your client during that call. Additionally, the quote catcher looks for anything brilliant you might have said and adds it to a particular database. So these are just some skills that I've given Summer so that when you invoke that role, it will run any of those. When you invoke Atlas, it's going to either allow you to write meta instructions, roles, or skills. So everything is included in here so that you can build out your entire team. You can build out whatever roles that you want to build out. Give them different jobs, tell them what to do. The Meta Atlas will actually walk you through creating that role just by asking you questions. You answer them, it will build the instructions, create the role, drop the instructions in there, and then you just have to go about building the skills you want it to have. Same thing. You open up Atlas and you tell it you want to build a skill, it'll ask you questions and it'll write the instructions. So essentially, Agent IO will build itself if you let it. Now, I've also created a database for resources. This is where you can populate things about you, about your business, about anything you want your agent to be able to dip into and look at. So the resources are for you to provide context for your AI. The persistent memory is built into the instructions of the Notion AI Agent IO, where this is actually a visible memory where you can see what the agents are remembering. So you can tell it to store things in its memory. This is particularly useful if you give your AI a long task, something that requires a multitude of different steps. You say, hey, I want you to update this database with 200 rows. Use the memory along the way to track your progress. So what will happen is if you give it a gigantic task, it may hit a rate limit. But if it uses the persistent memory every 5 or 10 items that it does, it'll know where it left off and can pick it up next time that you trigger the agent to do that work. So the persistent memory is a really useful thing, whereas in GPT and Gemini and Claude, what it remembers about you is a little bit more opaque. In this system, you can actually see what it's remembering, and it can remember different things, and it's a database, so it can have different rows. So really easy to navigate. Outputs is, let's say in a chat, you have your AI go and do some research or finish a piece of copywriting. You can say, export this to outputs, and it'll just drop it right here in the database. Now, you can also send output of any work from your chat to any other database in Notion, but this is a good default landing place in case you don't know where to put it. And then finally, built into this is that as you add roles, you can assign tasks from your actual task database to your different AIs. So if I go back out to the task database here, I can take any task that I'm putting here, a sample task here. And if I go into this task, I can actually go to right here, assign to AI, and I can then assign that to, say, Summer. And then I can go down to my AI and I can say, run Summer, check task list. And in this case, I can say complete sample task. And what you'd want to do is put explicit instructions in here of what you want Summer to do. But this allows different roles, which have access to different skills, to complete tasks for you. So ultimately, what you have in the SuperBrain OS with Agent IO is you have a really well-structured system for organizing all of your data, from tasks and projects to notes and articles and clippings to even memories. You have a space to organize all of that in a way that's connected and easy to follow. But then you also have all of the AI tools that you need to be able to grow and expand this to work exactly the way you want it to work. You can build out new roles, and that gives you the ability to have potentially even hundreds of different AIs that do different individual tasks and skills. So I've given you all the tools in here, specifically Atlas, that allows you to just talk to your Notion AI. It'll ask you questions and you can build new roles and you can build new skills. And hopefully this will make you a much more productive person and have an overall better life using your technology and tools. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like it. I hope you pick up a copy. And if you do, reach out to me and let me know what you're thinking of the experience so far. I tried to put together the absolute best tool that's out there for organizing your life and also for incorporating the Notion AI. So hope you love it.